Today our story begins with a demonstration of the high-rise building in which our guys work. In total, this team had 3 employees including the boss, a rather small team. They were all located in a small apartment of 100 square meters, and this shit couldn't even be called an ordinary building because this building could collapse at any moment. But also our boy, who is clearly tired of being in this job. Some lady who looks carefully at the computer and thinks about how to buy something at a low price. And another girl with gray hair who is sitting and playing Dota 2 right now instead of working. And so far, the main character is lucky to be the only developer in this company. Next, we were shown a girl with pink hair who wanted to ask a guy named Sang-hoon for a favor. Without thinking for too long, he immediately refuses, but the boy didn't even listen to what she wanted to ask, but he already knows very well that she wanted to shift the work to him, and he's not going to do anything for her. In his opinion, the lady here was second in age, so she should have at least completed her tasks independently. It's strange, but the girl asked if he really wasn't going to help her. She remembers the old days when he did absolutely everything she asked him to do. We are shown the moment when, during gatherings at the table, he confessed his love to her. The boy felt terribly ashamed of this, and he didn't understand why the hell she even remembers this, but she just missed those days. He just remembers what happened in those wonderful days, when everything was completely different and they were still in college. The way he used to be in love with her and wrote every night to ask if she was sleeping was incredibly sweet, but in his opinion, it was all a very long time ago. Since the girl with pink hair decided to remember the time when they were in college, he decides to ask what she was doing there. He simply reminds her that in college, she always had a person who does everything for her, class projects and even lunches with coffee. But in her opinion, this has never happened. Although even if this was so, the girl doesn't see anything wrong with it at all because all those people helped her on their own, so she didn't do anything wrong. Next, the main character decides to tell us about this girl. Her name is D.O. Jimin, and she was his son-by in college, and now at her new job she has become his eldest. And she was also the most beautiful girl in college, so guys were always running around her. That moment when he confessed to her in a cafe, then she simply decided to laugh it off. Then the guy realized that her personality was built as well as her appearance. But in the end, the guy still realized that the girl was simply taking advantage of the fact that there were a large number of guys in the college, so she decided to take advantage of them. To be honest, this bastard infuriated the main character both in college and at his previous job, so now he's definitely not going to do anything for her. But there was something else that really pissed Sang-hoon off, and someone shouted his name loudly. It was this lady with white hair who doesn't like the way he treats his boss. Maybe he wants to go without a salary. The boss, whose name was Yuna, thought she was still a bitch, but she had to somehow put up with it because she was the boss of this rocking chair. In her opinion, the main character behaved this way because he managed to conclude a couple of pitiful contracts, but still he had to maintain subordination because the boss did not have to decide every little thing for them. Let's tell you a little about this girl. Yuna is the founder of this company. But the problem was that after creation, she did absolutely nothing, all because she doesn't understand anything. Nevertheless, she takes every opportunity to load him with additional work. While she continued to scold him, the boy simply thought about the fact that he did not come to this company of his own free will. Before coming here, the boy worked in a large company that makes games. And at that time, there was a lot of overtime that could last all weekend, then only energy workers helped him. There were also constant quarrels with his superiors. His boss warned him that if he was going to continue doing such crap, it would be better to just leave the company. Whatever one may say, this fat boss simply did not want to work with him normally, and said that in past times he could have been killed for such quality of work. Ultimately, the main character simply could not stand such stress at work, and decided to leave gracefully and start a fight with his superiors. The situation for him turned out to be simply terrible, because all his accumulated money was gone just to resolve the situation. Then he could not find a normal job, so he had to accept the girl's invitation. Thus, he found himself surrounded by girls. The boss wanted to give him even more work, but the lady with pink hair said that he was already busy. As much as his life could be simply terrible, the main character could not believe that all this was happening to him. His salary was simply terrible, as were the working conditions. In general, it was no different from his previous place of work, only he already understood perfectly well that it would not be possible to build a career here, and it was better to leave as soon as possible. He begins to get angry just like when he started a fight with his boss and thought that he would announce his resignation right now. But even here there was a problem, because the boy did not know what he would do after his dismissal, whether he would be accepted into any other company. Rumors spread incredibly quickly, so that the story with the boss was already on all the news channels, which is why no company would want to hire a potentially dangerous employee. He still needed to pay for utilities and an apartment, so this was the only place where he could work calmly, and if he quit right now, he would definitely go beg for money on the street. Now the best solution would be to simply stay at this job and tolerate the bosses until he finds a better job. The boss noticed such a strange look from the main character and said that if he had something to say, he could do it. But now it was unprofitable for him to scold his superiors. He was going to endure this whole nightmare, but the girl still said that it was all written on his face. And then the boss finally started talking about how he was hired despite the fact that there were simply terrible recommendations about him. While the main character tried to convince himself that he should just ignore these words, she said that she could find a replacement for him in any moment. The lady started pointing her finger at him, saying that she had high expectations after Unni gave the recommendation, but all he does is constantly whine. She believed that he did not deserve his salary and could not work in society at all. And then she begins to gradually lead to dismissal, but only her speech ends abruptly. Instantly, the main character hits his hand on the table to stop everything that is happening. As a truly proud man, he proudly declares that he is going to quit on his own. He just started talking about how he regretted coming to work at this place because this company doesn't even deserve to be called an entertainment club. While the main character began to get ready, she asked if he had finished his speech, but of course he had many more things he wanted to say. In his opinion, it was necessary to bring much more investors to the company, or the company would soon simply fall apart, or the girl thought that she would just show everyone her status and then things would go well. He thought that she just had a personality type that had absolutely no professionalism and would never achieve success. The girl with red hair tried to calm Yuna down, but it just seemed like it wouldn't work at all. After all, she herself understands perfectly well that things are not going well for them now, and if there are no results this month, then her parents will simply stop investing in their company. Now they cannot hire another employee, so she will not be able to fire Sang-hoon. Of course, the situation is simply terrible for her because she won't be able to find a new employee so quickly. The main character was about to leave, but the girl stopped him. But of course, she's not going to stop him. She just told him to call when he can find a new Jiwi if he's to come back, then most likely she will accept him. Since he is now without a job, then let him call them in a week. Just this time should be enough for him to be refused everywhere. And in the end, he just slammed the door and left, like a real Sigma. Then we were shown how he was already sitting at home and wondering what to do next. It was all because that particular boss came to him from work, and it seemed she decided to ask him for something. Surprisingly, he even let her into the apartment and Yuna simply asked him to talk calmly. In his opinion, they had already said everything a long time ago and there was nothing more to discuss. Or maybe the girl just came here to talk about how she found a new employee. It turns out that it was all about her father. Reacted strangely when it came to her father. Yuna just said that he misunderstood her. She just urgently needed to discuss his work with contracts. He decides to remind her that she said that his work is pathetic, but she tries with all her might to bring everything to the point. The whole point was that he signed contracts at work using the name of the company, and if the contracts were broken, this could negatively affect his reputation. In short, Yuna reconsidered her decision regarding his dismissal and decided that now he can return to work. But the guy is also not stupid, and is sure that she simply could not hire another employee, but before the dismissal she said that he was a very easily replaceable employee. She is not going to admit defeat, and says that their company is not one of those that will hire casual workers. In her opinion, Sang-hoon was also having a hard time right now, so as his former boss, she promises to take care of him. She thought that this was just great news, but it didn't cause the main character a drop of joy. This was all, of course, simply incredible, and he likes the fact that she herself admitted that they needed him, but he just didn't want to go back at all. The lady was simply shocked at such a statement because she did not understand why he was refusing because he was a beggar and unemployed. By the way, it was not necessary to talk about this. All the same, the boy decides to start talking to her directly because Yuna came here precisely because she could not hire any other worker. After all, she independently suggested that he resign and now asks him to come back. Most likely this is because she has absolutely no conscience and she thinks that the main character is just a weakling. Since there is no other choice, the girl still decides to admit her mistake and even apologize. If suddenly this was not enough for the main character, then she offers to pay for dinner or maybe even give some kind of gift. Let her just say she will do everything except for a promotion. Damn it! Now the guy just stands in shock and thinks that such a situation simply cannot exist. He thought that pride was more important to her than anything. Even if the girl had knelt down and started asking for forgiveness, he still would not have returned, and even less so with such apologies. Although he still has a plan, he tells Yuna that there is still one thing he would like, an apology from her, and also says that he wants her to play cards with him, and then he will think about returning to work. Of course, The girl simply did not expect such a turn of events and thought that the main character had simply gone crazy. He thought about the reason why she was not going to play cards, but she called him an abnormal idiot who did not understand at all how to talk to girls. It seems that she is completely in no position to set conditions for him, especially since he perfectly remembers the fact that the delivery of the project was very soon. He was just wondering if she could find someone until the project had to be handed over, and even if she found him, he would have to be trained completely from scratch. Working with a new employee and concluding a new contract would take too much time. So, good luck. She needs to find someone who will have time to do all this. But now the question is, what did the girl do in this company? Now she begins to understand which employee she lost. She admits her mistake, but she's still not going to play cards because it was too much, but she herself said that if he wants to return, he will have to do it. It is not he who asks her to return to work, because it was she who came to his house to ask him to come and help with work, so it is she who will have to play cards with him. In his opinion, the only thing a girl can do is simply command people, which is why she can no longer do anything herself. While the lady was starting to get terribly angry, our boy said that he expected absolutely nothing from her, and said that it would be better for her to just leave. There was just an incredible amount of anger, and the main character was incredibly bored just sitting and saying all this, so if suddenly she has nothing more to say, then let her just return home. Suddenly, the girl decided to announce that she was going to play cards, but the boy himself did not believe that she agreed. In response, she shouted even louder that she was going to play cards with him, so let him get ready. And so the same game of cards began, but the girl was not going to play just like that. The guy also had to fulfill his part of the contract. The girl was already completely ready to play cards and asked if she was doing everything okay. And the boy himself simply stands in shock and cannot believe that she actually decided to play cards with him. He told her that he couldn't believe that she really agreed to play cards if only he would return to work, and in response, a lot of insults were thrown about the fact that the main character was a crazy goat and generally a complete bastard. After all, the main character himself said that she should play cards with him, but in his opinion, he simply did not think that she would really agree. Then she simply began to beat him. Be that as it may, the card game had already begun, and now the boy just watched as this lady swore at him. In his opinion, the whole truth was that the girl was now in complete despair because she came to him for help. Because the girl who always laughed at was now playing cards with him, and such a chance could not be missed. With a smile on his face, he simply says that everything was just fine, and the girl can continue the card match. She has already apologized enough, and he clearly sees that she is sorry, and she understands what a shitty situation she finds herself in. Suddenly, the main character says that there is something else he would like, and Yuna cannot believe that there is still something left. All he wanted was to simply adjust the volume of his work to make it more convenient to work. She didn't understand at all the reason why he was saying this, because he was just developing all sorts of things. That was understandable, but a couple of details needed to be clarified. While the girl was simply furious, our boy said that she would no longer burden him with additional work, and he would no longer do work for others. After all, the fact that he is being restored to work does not mean that everything should be exactly the same as before. If that was all, then the girl agreed to return him to work, but judging by the guy's malicious smile, he had something else. Damn it. Now the guy decided to say that from now on he will independently carry out plans for further work. And most likely more labor will be needed, which is why now he will control the selection of personnel and workers. Even when she writes financial reports, she will have confirmation from the main character. The girl was already simply shocked by his demands. He is also going to check the direction of the business and still needs to think about new rules, but Yuna asked him to stop. After all, now it turns out that the main character is going to usurp all the powers of the boss, and then she will simply become a puppet. But in his opinion, there was nothing wrong with that. This was completely normal because the girl didn't even know what they were doing, which is why she didn't do anything at work. Every day the girl just sat in her office and played Dota 2, but she tried to justify herself by saying that she generally collects information about important things. While someone was climbing the stairs, the boy continued to say that the girl was going to continue working like this until the very moment the company goes bankrupt. But in her opinion, he did not need to meddle in the boss's affairs. If suddenly he is going to continue to set conditions like this, then he can simply forget about returning to work. And then for some reason, she just starts screaming and calling someone for help. But in his opinion, if she suddenly wants to hide, she will definitely accept his conditions. She called him a bastard who has absolutely no humanity. At the entrance, there is a girl who happily told her mother that she was already home. While the boss was just trying to hide it, she told her mother on the phone that she didn't drink drinks today. Daughter continued. And meanwhile, the main character understood that if she wanted to hide, then his conditions would have to be fulfilled. They will definitely see their boss tomorrow, and then she realizes what kind of shit she has gotten herself into. Next, the actions are transferred to the next day in the office where the boy worked. He was already sitting at the table with other girls and scolded her, saying that the company was just some kind of joke for her. The entire accounting department was distributed simply terribly, and there were no projects that could bring them success. What was she even doing all this time? If suddenly she continues to work at exactly the same pace, then he will definitely just have to close the company, of course. She didn't like the fact that her employee was telling her off, but he has absolutely no intention of stopping and continues to say that all her investments are like throwing money away. The lady with red hair also noticed something strange, while the main character was simply checking notes from the meetings. And the boss herself didn't look very good either, as if she really made her employee a boss, after which she just started smiling because a great plan was born in her head. Since they had already discussed everything, they could finish for today. All those who want to eat can go to lunch. And he asked the boss to send all the corrected reports that she made at the meetings, how it infuriates her that this idiot began to command here. She still has no other choice, otherwise the company will simply be closed, so she agrees. She drew attention to her friend who, apparently, was not going to leave, but she simply said that she would leave a little later. She still needs to do something, so she goes about her business. Well, if that's the case, Yuna is the first to leave for lunch. They just wished her bon appetit. After which the guys were left completely alone in the office, and the lady with red hair called the boy. She simply asked if this whole situation was really bothering him, as if she was really worried about him. She asked him for forgiveness because she should have stopped her, and asks if he was upset. It's just that the main character himself must also understand that it's incredibly difficult to convince Yuna of anything because she's incredibly stubborn. She wanted to talk to him about that note and whether he had time, but the main character immediately replied that he did not. He warned her that tomorrow would be the last day before they had to submit the project, so she definitely couldn't relax. If suddenly the lady with red hair has already finished her part of the work, then she can go to have a snack. The girl doesn't even think much, she just agrees with him. She's just trying to bribe him with a drink because she wanted to treat her ward, but in his opinion, a promise to buy beer from a person who doesn't even buy food with his own money sounds like complete nonsense. She had already invited him to drink together many times, and as soon as the moment came to pay the bill, the girl found reasons to quickly leave the crime scene. These words turned out to be too offensive, because this time the lady spoke in all seriousness. But the main character is not going to believe it again. She showed him her wallet to prove that she was not lying, but the boy still did not understand the reason for such a kind deed. Does the guy really think that she will force him to pay every time? Because now they are working together again. She just wants to buy her ward a drink because he works hard. The lady with red hair continued to convince him that she had no dark motives, but he still somehow couldn't believe it all. And then she decides to use a secret technique by asking if maybe he just doesn't want to drink those drinks that she will buy. She looked at the boy for a long time, thinking that soon he would definitely agree, but he just made an incredibly tired face and simply refused her offer. She was simply shocked by this turn of events because she was sure that he would definitely agree. He continues to tell her everything, and does the girl really think that he hasn't seen similar situations before? In addition, there was still a whole day left before payday and they had no money, which is why she tried to do everything so that the main character would pay the bill. Denied everything until the very end, saying that she just wanted to thank him for such hard work. She also reminds him of the time when he thought it was funny to confess his feelings to her because it was done in a huge company. She decides to make a whole speech about the fact that he constantly helps her in a variety of situations, and she treats such situations with understanding in a large company. It all happened because she herself feels like the main character takes responsibility for everything that happens. And after such a speech, she decided to ask if the guy still didn't believe what she was telling him. After a long silence, he finally turns to his sunbae and asks if he really seems like such a gullible loser to her. Of course, the girl was simply shocked by such a statement, but he still decides to continue talking about the very rumors that are circulating about her. The main character decides to start telling the story from afar, because even in college, during group projects, she did absolutely nothing. Afterwards, she tried to pull off a similar trick at work, but it didn't work out and she was fired, and also got caught lying to a guy whose feelings she was simply playing with, as a result of which everyone simply abandoned her. And after everything that happened, she simply had nowhere to go, which is why she ended up in this shitty company. From the very moment she ended up here, she held the main character by the gullible idiot, and it is obvious that she is just trying to play with him. This was the speech of a real Sigma. Of course, she simply has nothing to say, but she still tries to come up with at least something that would make the main character simply shocked. Knocking on the table, he asks if she even knows what terrible state their company is in now. It was just some kind of miracle that their company could still exist, and at the same time they had already made many mistakes. He doesn't know exactly how much money the boss still has left, but he is completely sure that she will soon go bankrupt. The basic rule of absolutely any company, because if there is a lack of budget, they begin to lay off employees who were of too little use. And if you think logically, only she and the boss can be called useless people here, and he cannot fire the boss. Looking at her with an incredibly serious expression on his face, he asks if she even understands what he's getting at. If not, then he will say it directly. Soon the girl with red hair will simply be fired because she does nothing. After such horror, the girl thought that most likely he was just joking. But did it all look like a joke? The main character gave her until next week, and it would be better for her to prepare well. Suddenly, due to the tense situation, the girl simply decided to shout his name to draw attention. The lady began to cry and beg him to give her a second chance, and the boy was simply shocked that the girl even knew such words as please. It's just that if he suddenly fires her, then she will have absolutely nowhere to go, and from now on she promises to try much better. She also decides to remind him that he liked her, but it seems that he is completely tired of this whole conversation. But the situation was just great, so he decides to create his own advantage here by saying that she really is a very beautiful girl. Most likely he was so greatly influenced by the amount of beer he drank that evening, but it was love at first sight. She thought that the situation had changed and asked to continue talking. But what was much more important was that the main character really wanted to play poker with her. He started talking about how she was just an incredible opponent who had amazing skills for the game, but she got scared and asked what the hell he was even talking about. So that's what he's getting at. The guy didn't like her at all. He just wanted to play poker with a beautiful lady. To put it bluntly, from the very first meeting, he only thought about how to play poker with her, or any card game in general. He talks about how he used to play cards with himself, thinking that she was his opponent, but in the girl's opinion, it was all very strange. But with all this, he did not like her at all as a girl, simply as an opponent in the cards, especially after she took him for a fool for a long time. All the feelings that he had for her completely evaporated and ended, although most likely they were not there from the very beginning. All the same, no matter how you look at it, he didn't like the girl anymore. So even if she didn't try to communicate with him in order to stay at this job, this time everything will be different and she better get ready. And then she decides to ask what will happen if she agrees. But only for once, the boy did not understand at all what she was trying to say. And then the girl just starts crying, saying that she agrees to play cards with him just to stay at her job. The boy was still looking at her questioningly, but she didn't understand why the hell he was pretending like he didn't understand anything at all. After all, from the very beginning, the boy wanted exactly this, saying that he loved her, so she said that she liked him too. But she was angry because nothing like that had ever happened on his part. If suddenly all he wanted was to just play poker with her, then so be it. She agreed to play as many poker games as he needed, and then they would both stay at work. Fool either, he. And since she agreed to play poker, he just has a deck of cards with him. But she definitely didn't expect that they would start the game so quickly. Damn it, he's just crazy. How can you even play poker at work? You can't play here. But he already had too much to do today, so there's no other way. But she was also worried that Yuna could come back at any moment. But in his opinion, everything was completely normal because the boss left quite recently and never returns until the end of the lunch break. Surely no one will see them playing cards, especially since she herself suggested playing poker right now, so it would be strange to refuse the game. Of course, the lady is in complete shock and doesn't even know what to do, and asks where it would be better for them to start. For some reason, their argument is still going on, and she asks if he is really going to play here, but in his opinion, any normal person would agree to such a thing. And why in such a situation should he just give up poker because he is completely normal? More horror as well as questions, because all this time the girl was only thinking about how to transfer all the work to him, and now she has to play poker with him so that she does not get fired from work. This is a turn. And then the boy decided to give another lecture about the fact that she was simply getting exactly what she deserved, because for such a long time, she was simply taking advantage of people. It would be a different matter if she herself refused his offer to play poker, but she herself offered him card games. So why is she complaining now? This is where the video ends. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel and like so that the new part comes out as soon as possible.